Good evening, everyone. Are we, as staff, prepared to begin?
Trying to see if we have a quorum right now, sir.
I think we're at 10.
Yeah.
I think we can start.
Okay.
Okay.
Isn't
We
a
ready?
quorum, isn't a quorum 11?
11, yes, but I'm sure somebody will be coming in. Here's our 11. We're going to begin. Good evening and welcome to the San Mateo County Department of Emergency Management. This is the Emergency Services Council for today, April 21st, 2022. We'll call the meeting to order. And I would ask at this time if we can please take roll call.
We are open. Okay, Atherton. Belmont. Brisbane. Burlingame. Colma.
Here, present.
Thank you. Daly City.
Glenn Sylvester, Daly City, present.
Thank you. East Palo Alto.
Lisa Gaucher here.
Thank you. Foster City.
Don Furman is present.
Thank you. Half Moon Bay. Hillsborough.
Marie Drung, present.
Thank you. Menlo Park.
Cecilia Taylor, present.
Thank you. Millbrae.
Ann Schneider, present.
Thank you. Pacifica.
Water loss here.
Thank you. Portola Valley. Redwood City.
Lisa Espinosa Garnica, council member here.
Thank you. San Bruno, I saw Chairman Medina. San Carlos. San Mateo. South San Francisco.
Eddie Flores, present.
Thank you. Town of Woodside. And County of San Mateo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
It should be 11. We have 11. We have a quorum. Thank you, Jeff, very much for taking roll. Let's move on to item number 2, public comments for items not on the agenda. The public can have to yes.
Mr. Chair,
yes,
just for the record, I think I did see Colma log on.
Colma is been recorded as here.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're now moving on to public comment. This is for public comments for items not on the agenda for members of the public. We'll have up to 2 minutes. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak? If you could raise your virtual hand at this time. Seeing none, but I do see Ann from Millbrae and Ms. Schneider. You have your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor Medina. I think I can fit in a couple of Millbrae's concerns on the existing agenda items, but if not, we are still investigating the flooding that led to 2 deaths in Millbrae, and I would like that on a future agenda.
Okay, well, we have at the bottom council comments and announcements and
Okay,
future
I can hang
agenda
on to it.
development.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Appreciate it. Let's move on to item number 3, consent agenda items. We have 2 items, the approval of the minutes of the January 20th meeting and the approval to continue remote meetings. Any comments, questions, or action from the council?
Mayor Bendita, I move approval of the consent calendar.
Glenn
Second.
Sylvester, I'll second. Well,
We have a motion and a second. I'll let staff figure out the second. A roll call, please.
Atherton. Belmont. Brisbane. Burlingame. Colma.
Aye.
Daly City.
Aye.
East Palo Alto.
Aye.
Foster City.
Yes.
Half Moon Bay. Hillsborough.
Aye.
Menlo Park.
Yes.
Millbrae.
Aye.
Pacifica.
Yes.
Portola Valley. Redwood City.
Yes.
San Bruno.
Yes.
San Carlos, San Mateo, South San Francisco,
Yes.
Town of Woodside, County of San Mateo. Calendars, consent calendar accepted unanimously.
Thank you. Let's move on to item 3, presentations. The first item will be the budget for fiscal year 2022-2023. We're going to turn it over to Michael Leach. If you could please feel free to take over and make your presentation.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. There we go. This is a presentation for fiscal year 22-23 Emergency Services JPA proposed budget. Our first slide, this is a comparison slide from the current fiscal year we're in, which is fiscal year 21-22, compared against the proposed fiscal year budget of 22-23. Overall, there's about a 2.8% change increase in costs this year. You can see the top line for DEM Emergency Services. Current year, it's about 2.25 million. This next year, it'll be 2.333 million. Just rounding up here. Environmental health portion. This is the hazmat division. Current year, it's 881K. This coming year, 895K. I'll go into some of the reasons that these changes occur in just a minute. The state mandated planning services are set at $52,500. This is unchanged from the current fiscal year. The total emergency services budget this year that we're proposing is 3.274 million. Again, the overview, $3,274,679. Service levels remain unchanged from last year. Overall, the increase I was mentioning before about the 2.8%, that is represented by 91,331 increase from the current fiscal year. Some of the reason this increase has occurred, we have the addition of countywide training. This is using a ARPA grant funds that has a $65,823 match. So ARPA is providing, the feds are giving us this money if we match it with in kind. We're also adding the local hazard mitigation contract, which is worth $95,000. Previously last year, this sat within the Office of the County Executive. It's been moved over to DEM as viewed as a better fit. There's also a reduction due to personnel salary and benefit adjustments. These three main factors combined provide the increase of the 91,331. Does anyone have any questions at this point before I move on?
Are there any
I
questions
do.
from council? And I thank you very much. City of Redwood City.
Yeah, I was just curious if you could go more on like what training, who's receiving training? Are we expecting lateral training, vertical training? Who's getting it? Thank you.
Dan or Don, would either of you like to answer that?
That's for county employees, DEM. We run classes here for different type of things like, section training for operations, for the emergency operation centers. So that is available to both county DSW folks and our EMA folks out in the field. In fact, we're sponsoring
Emergency management concepts.
We're sponsoring an emergency management concepts class in the week of May 19th here at the Rock. Does that answer your question?
So it seems like we're spending training on emergency services training.
It's more of training for the people who would come to the, your emergency operations centers in your cities. Here at the county also, we're training folks. It's open to the, primarily to anybody who operates in those realms countywide.
So what kind of, can you tell me what kind of those professions those are, like those people involved? Just very
Sure.
simple layman's terms, I guess, for me, because.
Sure. These are emergency, most cities, according to the JPA, have to have an emergency management individual identified. They belong to the Emergency Managers Association in the county, made up of the 20 cities who signed the JPA. And they do a lot of their emergency management, a lot of the planning functions. You know, like right now, we're working on our zone haven policy and procedures. We've sent that out already. There's more stuff coming with evacuations that we're working on. Cities participate in all that, including the city of Road City.
Expand.
Go ahead.
On top of that, you're going to see anyone from building officials, you're going to see public works people, fire, law, administrative people, anyone who might have a task in that operations, planning, logistics, or finance section of a city EOC.
Got it. Okay. Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other hands at this time, unless I'm unfortunately overlooking someone, if you could please continue, Mr.
Okay. We have two budget scenarios for your consideration this evening. The first scenario is the use, not using reserves. The second is utilizing a proposed 410,000 in reserves this year. The cost to the cities for not using a reserve would be 1.5 million and change. The cost of the county for not using the reserve would be 1.47 million change. By utilizing the 410,000 proposed, this would reduce the cost that the cities have to pay in this year, as well as the counties. It would reduce the cities' cost to 1.3 million and change, reduce the counties to 1.26 and change. Again, utilizing reserves would lower costs for all city agencies and the county. The anticipated reserve level that we've estimated at the end of this fiscal year, so that would be June 30th of 2022, would stand at 1.3 million. In the past, the council has authorized the use of 200,000 in reserves for this current fiscal year that we're in, 21-22. Looking a little bit more detail, everyone should have received this attachment. There's a 10-page PDF document that goes into detail on how the budget's developed. And this overall page shows what your costs would be with the use of the 410,000 reserves that's being proposed this evening. The city subtotal you'll see here in the column under fiscal year 22-23 total program cost is the 1.3. City county is 1.2. In the past, a question has been asked, why is there a difference? And the difference actually is in the state mandated planning services. Each city pays in $250K, $2,500, excuse me, per city. That amounts to $50,000 for all the cities. The county's share is $2,500 as well. But that accounts for the difference here in what the cities versus the counties pay. Again, these combined and using that reserve, the cost to run the ESC JPA this year would be $3,274,679. Budget recommendation for your consideration this evening is to adopt the fiscal year 22-23 Emergency Services JPA proposed budget, utilizing 410,000 in reserves. ESC to utilize Finance Committee to determine how best to handle the increased reserves amount, and to consider officially establishing a reserve amount within the JPA agreement. At this time, are there any questions? Dan and Don, I don't know if you have any additional comments you'd like to make.
Yeah, I do, and it's about the reserve and reserve funding in there. We need to have a, either a procedure or policy to determine what we're gonna do with that excess money. And the second thing is formally adopt the $500,000 limit. In the research that we did going back to, I believe it was 2017 in April, we could not find any documentation other than a comment made in the minutes that this was there. So I think it needs to be formally adopted, and then allowing the Finance Committee to look at some options they have with their funding, and maybe use it on special projects, or use it funding mini grants to cities, small ones. But we need to kind of keep that level down, because the fear is it'll go up. Now, that level will change year to year, depending on how we're doing and what's going on, obviously. But the reality is, it needs to be some formalization to how we're going to handle the excess funding, which this year would be 800,000 plus. So I put that on the table for discussion, but we discussed it at the Finance Committee meeting also, and that we would come back to the council. The Finance Committee will come back to the council during mid-year review with their recommendations.
Okay, thank you very much for the information and presentation. I want to mention it was in a follow-up document before we take comments or questions from the council. The Finance Committee at this time is Foster City, Hillsborough, Daly City, and San Bruno. So I want to thank them for meeting prior to this to go over this information, and wanted to let you know that first and foremost. And with that, we open to colleagues and City of Millbrae.
Thank you. And members, this is going to be a long one, so I hope that you will bear with me. I apologize for missing the January meeting. Somehow I fell off the notifications. And I also somehow fell off the Finance Committee, and I've already brought that up with the supervisor, or at least with his staff on that. So with that said, going and looking back at the disasters, not the pandemic, not the CZU fire, but looking at the flooding that happened last fall and all the way through Christmas Day that caused a loss of life. For the other members, we had 3 significant floods in a neighborhood called Landing Lane. The flooding is due to SFO not cleaning out Lamita Canal, which drains Millbrae and a portion of San Bruno. They are supposed to do it every year. They have not. The water twice flooded garages on this street, and then the third flood, the December 23rd flood, flooded up into bedrooms. So we've had that flooding incident. We had on October 23rd, we had a flooding incident on Millbrae Avenue that was due to Burlingame removing the pumps from the Cohen Canal. The new pumps, the replacement pumps, were caught in the supply chain. The end result is Millbrae Avenue and portions of Millbrae and Burlingame flooded. The reason I bring that up is Caltrans, according to the research I've been able to do, and this all relates to budget, and if we have budgeted enough money to take care of these in emergency situations. So apparently when a major road like Millbrae Avenue floods, Caltrans is notified, and they are supposed to go out and put closing of the off ramps. That did not happen. I have that from multiple residents in Millbrae and Burlingame. So people got off at Millbrae Avenue and ended up in the floodwaters on Millbrae Avenue. So my concern there is, have we budgeted? Do we have the procedures in place? And if we don't, do we have the budget to cover it, to make sure that if this floods any other city at any other time, Caltrans will appropriately close the roads? The third flood is, of course, the loss of life. December 23rd, an atmospheric river, a flash flood that is different than the floods that we have planned for in the past. For example, the flooding that could potentially cut East Palo Alto off from all concerns. This flood caused the loss of life of 2, and it's a multi-regional agency problem. And I cannot tell in our documents if the regional agencies, in this case, BART, High Speed Rail, and Caltrains, and PG&E, are a part in our hazard mitigation planning. So if we're talking about our mitigation plan and that moving over from some portion of the county office into DEM, are we looking at our regional agencies and their impact on disaster planning? And then I have very specific places within the budget document where these come up. It's on page 9, it's on page 11. And I obviously support the funding for this. I am not sure I can vote to use another $400,000 of contingency money when I think all of our cities with below grade crossings, whether they're pedestrian crossings or car crossings, we are all at risk now of people dying in an atmospheric river caused flash flood. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, and this is not a contingency. These are reserves that have been
Reserve funds.
accumulated. A lot of
I
it's from the
understand
SFO,
reserve
which could,
funds.
yeah.
Same thing.
Okay, thank you. But maybe I know there was a lot in there. I don't know if staff has a response in regards to a portion of that or some of that.
Chair, if I could,
Yes.
to me, we have not, as a region, debriefed. We haven't really actually, in my worldview, debriefed the pandemic response, let alone what happened due to the rains and the rains that will most likely, and now the greater concern, heat waves. For us to be using up funds that we may want to hang on to for those emergencies,
Okay.
that's where I'm at.
Okay, I understand. And so there are 2 items before us. One is about the budget. 2 is about within that budget, the 410,000 to be or not to be utilized, and futuristic as far as adopting the 500,000 for a reserve policy with the JPA and having to go back to finance committee for more specifics to bring back.
You got it.
With that, does staff wish to respond to anything?
Mr. Mayor, it's Dan Belleville. Greetings to you and the rest of the council members this evening. I can mention that the multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan, or the LHMP, is heavily focused on drought and the impacts of drought, whether it be flash flooding, erosion, or anything related to extreme weather conditions. So some of that flooding that was mentioned would be covered as far as potential FEMA funding in the future. So part of those expenses that we talked about, that $95,000, would be directly related to that funding. So at least some of it would. So I thought I could answer some of what the question was raised a few moments ago.
Through the chair, could I do a
Okay.
follow-up?
Okay,
I read in
very
one of our
quickly so I can. Okay.
sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, City Member. I just want to make sure we get to our other colleagues too.
My apologies. In the
That's fine.
documents for today's meeting, it did talk about FEMA allowing some preventative money to be spent, and I have to go back and check my notes. But one of the things that we did not have at our underpass were a set of hardware installations. I'm not talking about the cause of it, but if something happens like that again, that a bar goes down, the yellow lights start flashing, and people will not drive into standing water. So if we can get some of that preventative money ahead of time from FEMA, I feel more comfortable.
Thank
FEMA
you. City, go ahead, Dan.
The purpose of the local hazard mitigation plan and identifying the hazards are that FEMA will front load, to the extent that they can, preventative measures from things like that occurring. Whether or not we would get that funding, we don't know. We've certainly put ourselves in a good position by having 36 partners, every city, every town, and a number of different special districts. So we put ourselves in a very good position. Whether that funding would come through, we don't know. But we're certainly in a better position than we were last year, for example.
Okay, thank you. It was in the minutes of the meetings, and it was talking about LHMP, fire and erosion, which didn't necessarily cause a non-fire related flash flood. So just please put it on your to-do list.
Okay, thank you, City of Millbrae. City of Foster City.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to mention, we did ask questions regarding the 410 compared to 200,000 last year and how that was arrived at. and I think it's important to note a couple of the items that came into play were partly to reduce the reserves down to the level that was desired by the council, but also the ARPA and the hazard mitigation planning were somewhat short-term types of activities that we could fund using the additional reserve monies. So that was kind of the reasoning behind the 410. Thanks.
Thank you very much, John. Did any other members of the Finance Committee want to add anything to the conversation from our meeting and thought process?
Yeah, if I can, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Daly City, Daly City.
Thank you so much. You know, we actually had a few meetings and we went back and forth on the Finance Committee, and you know, where it says it was supposed to take a half hour to an hour, we spent as much as 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And a lot of questions from my colleagues came up and a lot of concerns, and we had the staff go back, look into this, look into that. And I'm a proponent in protecting our reserves, but as a result of the meeting that we had and the matching funds from ARPA, I think this was an opportune time to utilize the reserves at this time. You know, tomorrow is promised to no one. And I do respect the city of Millbrae because I think we should have a contingency plan for undue acts of nature that may arise and how are we going to handle it. But I think the issue at hand right now is to somewhat limit in scope the liability for each particular city to keep OES going. And I think the utilization, with all the conversation, the utilization of 410,000 in reserves seems very applicable. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Town of Hillsborough.
Thank you, through the chair. I concur with my colleague from the Finance Committee that we spend a lot of time diving into the line items and ask for clarification. I think the $500,000 reserve was arbitrarily decided back in 2017, and there was always an intent to dive in more on what is the adequate amount as a reserve. And there's also the concern that what are we doing with the additional reserve, the money that goes beyond the reserve. So I think that the staff is asking this board to review and ask and give direction to the Finance Committee to work with the staff to come up with the reasoning and make recommendation as to what amount of the reserve is adequate, and other recommendations regarding for the remaining balance, what suggestions that would be appropriate to all the 21 jurisdictions.
Thank you very much. Other questions or comments from colleagues? Anybody on the council? I sat on the finance and Daly City is correct that we did spend time with staff more than they probably had wished. But we were asking questions about why is the rent this? Why are the radios? Why? I mean, we were going into the minutia of that to really delve in to get prepared for this evening. The reserves have been there and have been used because in essence they're just JPAs. By having some of those go back as is recommended here, will not have any increase to any of the jurisdictions within the county for this upcoming budget cycle. Actually, there's going to be some savings. The additional, as Foster City stated, the additional beyond the 200 was because of some of the programs that also my colleague from Daly City mentioned. So with that is what is before you this evening is the budget. It's recommendation to the body, as well as the use of the 410,000 is what the Finance Committee is recommending to you after meeting with staff. So I look forward to any other comments and or action.
Yeah, Vice Chair Medina, this is a review of the
Yes.
budget. You will.
I'm sorry.
Good, I'm sorry.
No. I was getting ahead of myself.
Okay, so we are going to, you've reviewed the budget and this, you will approve it at the next meeting.
The other thing, and thank you for pausing me. I had a Zoom prior to this, so I'm going in between. Another reason we did it earlier is that so you can go back to your city managers and say, here's the amount of the money. Because remember, we would approve this in June, our budgets are done. So this allows also for, here are the parameters, if we use the reserves or not, but at least we can go back to our agencies and say, for budgetary purposes. So that's another reason we wanted to bring that forward to this. City of Millbrae.
Thank you, Chair. So I talked to my city manager thinking that we were approving the budget today, and I told him there might be a 2.6, 2.9% increase, which we can cover. Using the reserve funds, we would not have that increase. It would be the same as it was last year.
You are correct, or if not, a small deduction.
Okay, I'm still torn. I just, for the new folks, have worked in the environmental field for almost 40 years. We have a 3-year horizon on climate change, and we are going to begin to see much more devastation. And I'm very, very worried for all of us on that. So I'm torn in spending money that we may have to need on it. And as a city that lost people, and I will carry that guilt for the rest of my life, that we're not doing enough. But I appreciate that.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, I'm glad we're not voting on it. I'll get direction from my coworker, my fellow council members on this one, because for me, this is really tough.
Lisa. Oh.
No, thank you. And I'm glad you clarified that, because in my mind, I was trying to figure out with staff send this information to city managers, but I will take direction and get this to our city managers and our staff ahead of our budget conversations to make sure it's covered and we know what's going on. So again, thank you.
No, thank you. So, and again, it was also to see if going back to the finance committee to start to work on some reserve limits and ideas and concepts and bringing that forward. Is the body just in a consensus? Is the body okay with that element going forward? I'm seeing a lot of nods. It's great we don't have to do a roll call. Also want to acknowledge the city of Half Moon Bay is here. Thank you, Deborah, and thank you for letting us know what time you would be here. And City of Pacifica is here as well. With that, if there's nothing else on the budget, then we will move on to the next item under presentations, which is the EOC and DEM update. And Mr. Belleville.
Yeah, before Dan gets started, I want to assure the council that Dan and I are pretty seamless in the transition, and Dan is going to be here on working with us still. But I want to assure you that we will keep good look over what's going on in the county and assure that we provide any programs that are needed for us. So I'm glad to have Dan here at the table with me. And so I'll turn it over for Dan's report.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Mayor, and to the rest of the Emergency Services Council members. Just wanted to give you a quick update on the EOC, or the Emergency Operations Center. We've been trying to give you updates every time we have our meetings. The EOC has been open now for over 2 years, so that's something like 750 plus consecutive days of being open. We are planning to terminate either by June or perhaps a little bit earlier, and this comes primarily from FEMA, so more to come on that. I believe we've transmitted a few false alarms in the past thinking COVID would be over. I think all of us would agree that we're all very exhausted, but it would be nice to see this incident terminate. And with so many people getting vaccinated in our state, things seem to be well under control. We know that these variants pop up from time to time, and we'll keep an eye on them, but we are hoping to terminate the incident. The primary focus on what we do in the EOC is to manage those 213s. I think I've mentioned those in the past. A 213 is a FEMA form that provides an order for anything that's done, whether we open up hoteling for people that don't have a place to stay, or ship food, or order vaccinations. Everything gets a 213, and we have thousands and thousands and thousands of them that we've processed. We are still processing a few 213s each week. They trickle in, mostly for vaccination clinics and things like that. We do have a number of different clinics open throughout the county. for most of the week in a number of different cities. So we will continue that effort and work with primarily the health department on 213s as needed. And then the other piece of that is assisting those folks that are underrepresented because they need the most help at this point. So we spend a lot of time doing that. A little update on the PPE that was mentioned, I believe it was at the last meeting where it was at the event center and damaged by the rain. There were lots of numbers thrown out. I think probably the most accurate, it was about $7.1 million worth of PPE. And even that description was not entirely accurate. It wasn't gloves and masks and things like that was reported in the news. It was primarily face shields and some coveralls. However, we did repackage everything. There were about 1,250 pallets. And of those 1,250 pallets, about $120,000 was destroyed out of the 7.1 million. The rest of it was repackaged and is completely usable for other purposes. Fortunately, we were able to donate to nonprofits about 250 of those 1,250 pallets. And that went to places like in the Pacific Island where the volcano occurred, and other areas and nonprofits in need. We're actually looking at Ukraine right now. So of those 1,250 pallets, we have about 1,000 remaining. And those were shipped off to 5 different warehouses around the Bay Area for safekeeping. We will continue to work with FEMA to see if we can give additional supplies away to those that could repurpose what's in there. For example, coveralls might be very useful in Ukraine where there's lots of building damage. So that would be a great use of repurposing some of that remaining stock. And then other than that, I believe that will all be buttoned up within the next couple of weeks. And so that will close out the PPE issue while things are being maintained at the warehouses. And with that said, I'll open up to any questions that may come up, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much for your report and information. I will go to colleagues, and first is the city of Redwood City.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that with remaining funds, we'll be giving it as foreign aid to Ukraine.
It's one of the potential uses of repurposing it. There are several things that are in play. We have to make sure that nonprofits are able to use it. So we have to secure that the background that nonprofits are actually using the equipment. We also have to work with FEMA on what can be distributed. So it is one that we're exploring right now that may come to fruition here in the next couple of weeks. So the answer is yes, as long as everything lines up. We would love to send as much as we can to the Ukraine for their use.
Okay, I would just also suggest expanding that to any folks who are experiencing war and such devastation, including Palestine. I think these are worthy. Palestine is just an example of one other worthy nation that's, predominantly Arab. So I think that's why it doesn't get mainstream attention as Ukraine has. So I think we should very much consider not just Ukraine, but any war-torn country devastated by such things like apartheid or, imperialist use of force like Ukraine. I think these are things to explore. So we don't just focus on what typically is part of a Eurocentric strategy to addressing imperialism and devastation by war. I just think there's a lot of attention on Ukraine when there's a lot of people who are also suffering alongside them that are mostly people of color in these nations, including Palestine. So definitely want us to have a critical eye when we think about aid to other nations.
Thank you for that. Anything that falls within the lines or scope with which FEMA will allow us to send those supplies, we're happy to do that. So any contacts, nonprofits, you can channel those through DEM and we'll manage them accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belver. City.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank Dan for that update. You hit the nose and providing the information so that it is substantial, it is accurate, because of what's posted in media is entirely different. So thank you for that. I am happy that we have found warehouses to place this equipment in. And a colleague of mine from Millbrae, who's online right now, we both mentioned approximately 3 years ago, prior to the fires, prior to the pandemic, that the County of San Mateo should find a way or mechanism to purchase N95 masks and just have them available, because the smoke would travel in a southerly direction. And I'm sorry that this had to happen because now it looks like it's come to fruition. We do have, I assume, some of these masks in stock so that cities that need them can perhaps come to OES and ask, hey, can we have an allotment because we need them for our seniors and what have you. So I think it's a win-win situation. I appreciate the fact that you salvaged as much as you can. Very good job, and thank you for the update. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sylvester. Thank you, sir.
City of Millbrae.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you. It's Mayor Glenn again? Oh, no, okay, Councilman Glenn. Yes, we had a subcommittee, since we've got a lot of new staff here, a subcommittee created a few years ago of Glenn, myself, and Mayor Medina to look at particulate pollution from the fires that seem to be pushing up against San Bruno Mountain and Santa Cruz Mountain. So areas that the Air Quality Board did not think were high particulate risk turn out with the fire created winds can be backing up into us. So I thank Mr. Sylvester for bringing that up in terms of long-term contingency plans. My comment is actually going backwards to the Ukraine discussion. I happen to be a Lion. I happen to be a Millbrae Lion. We are doing a fundraiser for the Millbrae, or for the Lions International Foundation, which has a fund for sending aid to displaced persons all over the world. So with Ms. Espinosa Garcia's comments, I'm very happy that the money we're collecting will go to any displaced persons. People, if they choose to right now, can designate Ukraine. And for us, that means our money, dollar for dollar, is going to Lions clubs in the countries that are handling the displaced persons on that. So I can pass you over some information with them. I just happen to be working on this project with a different hat on. But I'm happy to please that we sent money to Tonga. We sent money years ago to Nepal. Because we have this pre-existing relationship. And just to make y'all feel better, I'm a longtime Red Cross disaster volunteer, and in Santa Clara County, our Red Cross trailers were positioned on properties all within the 100-year flood zone. So again, what happened here is a wake-up call to look at all of our warehouses and make sure that they are climate resilient. So I feel for you all on that one.
I see the hand from Redwood City, but before, is there anybody else on the council like to have everybody have an opportunity first before somebody has a second opportunity? Okay, yes, City of East Palo Alto.
Yes, Dan, again, thank you for the report. So is the plan to give away all the excess supplies, or is the plan to still keep some supplies on hand for future emergencies? And then additionally, are there items in the stock that we're storing that may have expiration dates? And how are you planning to manage that, if that's the case?
Yes, thank you. Great question. So sort of two parts. We do have a considerable amount of PPE in stock that moves through the system in the event of a rise of COVID or whatever the emergency is. So we have an adequate supply. There's actually a mandate now to have a certain, I believe it's a 90-day supply. This came out of the COVID response because everybody was clamoring for PPE. They didn't have enough, they had too much. So we do have the mandated supply. We rotate that stock through so that it doesn't expire. The other part of that is what we move to the warehouses. Much of it did already expire or is expiring as we speak. However, that is the manufacturer expiration date. We believe most of it is good and it could still be purposed for other things. For example, in Ukraine, they can use some of these overalls or these coveralls, these plastic coveralls, kind of like a paint suit, or the face shields in their environment because it's a hazardous environment. So it'd be ideal for them. Or if there's a fire, for example, people have to go through debris, these major fires. So same place, same thing, face shields or these little jump bunny suits would be ideal for that. So a lot of that is expired that's in the warehouse, but we will continue to repurpose it. The stuff that we have at the county that we move through the health system, we avoid those expiration dates and it's constantly moving so that that doesn't expire. And we do have a lot of it on hand, as I mentioned, in that minimum 90-day supply. And all those systems are being shored up as a result of what we tripped on during the event so that it doesn't occur again. So I hope that answered some of what you asked. I know there were a lot of good points made when you spoke to it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Half Moon Bay, and then we'll go to Redwood City.
Just a clarifying question. When you say you have a 90-day supply on hand, or we have a 90-day supply on hand, does that mean there's one mask for every citizen? How do you mean 90 days to supply who with what?
That 90-day supply is the burn rate. We calculate what we call a burn rate, and they even came out with some additional standards on the burn rate, how we calculate a burn rate. And essentially that's for the people in the health system that have to treat so many patients and how many masks they may use on a given day. So we look at the burn rate for the hospital, the clinics, all the systems, the SNFs, and then we add those together in addition to what we need in the working environment, and that's our burn rate. So that's how we calculate it.
Thank you.
My mute button got stuck. Sorry. Very quickly for City of Redwood City, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to hop on to say I agree with Councilmember Sylvester's suggestion about PPE and expanding it. I would also encourage us to not just like with our public agency, like our city's staff, which I think is still super essential, just like consider sending it to like businesses. Because, you know, I see a lot of servers who just still perform a lot of their duties every day with medical masks, not the KN95 masks. And I went to a meeting today with Public Works, you know, changing from, you know, private sector to like public stuff. They also, some of them were still using medical masks. And I don't know, I didn't ask and inquire, but I want to emphasize just like pushing that we have KN95s broadly pushed and sufficient amount. So we don't have many people coming in with the wrong masks. And I want to know if there's a way that we can get it to other employees, other businesses, so they are also safe.
We've
If there's
worked
any
with,
response, I'm sorry, Dan, could you make it a quick response, please?
yes, sir. So we have worked with the business community, underserved. We try to target the people that need them most. There are a number of different restrictions. If cities, for example, have been given supplies through FEMA, we can't sort of do the same thing. The county then can't give the city additional supplies, but we do target businesses, people that are underserved, nonprofits, those facilities that can best use the PPE. So we're very much aware of that. We make adjustments every day for those in need. We evaluate those needs and we'll continue to do so going forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Being concluded with that item, what I'd like to do is with council's approval, I'd like to move down to the agenda, then we'll come back up and go to action items. I know we have a member of our council that needs to leave, and so I want to make sure we get the action items completed. So with your okay, I want to move to action items under disaster service worker, DSW. As you know, this is to approve the state of California changes for training and emergency deployment for CERT, disaster service worker volunteer program, and other related volunteer groups. As you know, we've discussed this before. The resolution was not in the January agenda. Therefore, it was now placed there so that we fall within the, we follow the rules, bottom line. And I know I just shifted up, but Patrick, were you going to say anything additional on this?
No, I think that what's before you, the resolution, I'm hopefully is clear, and I'm willing to, or I'm more than happy to answer any questions there might be rather than representing the item.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from colleagues at this time? Not, let's see if there's any, we'll go to the City of Millbrae, and if there's any members of the public, this would be the time to raise your hand. City of Millbrae.
I'm sorry, Chair, I clicked to, I'm happy to make a motion to approve with one question, though. How quickly do we have to get our CERT photo IDs updated? Because I know mine is expired. So if we could just reach out to every CERT and let them know they've got to get those new badges.
But that's up to the individual programs. I know that our department is in process of updating our cards. All of the coordinators have been given the correct government code section to appear on the cards. And the CERT coordinators in the county have agreed on some guidelines for consistency. Obviously, we can't make another city, write anything on their cards. There's no legal requirement, but we did agree as a group, the coordinators, that the card should be easily identifiable as a CERT member, that they should have a photo of the CERT member on it, have the correct government code and the name of the sponsoring agency. So all of the program heads have agreed on those as minimum standards, and they're going to be moving forward with those. So it would be up to the Millbrae CERT coordinator to move forward with that.
Excellent.
example,
I'm glad
in
to
the
hear
Millbrae.
that. Glad to hear
Okay.
that. Thank you.
Thank you, City of Millbrae. City of Daly City.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a no-brainer, and to dwell on having specific codes and making it across all cities where I think each city should be responsible, as what Mr. Halloran said. So with that being said, I would gladly second the motion. Thank you.
So we have a motion from Millbrae, seconded from Daly City. Roll call, please.
Atherton, Belmont, Brisbane, Burlingame, Colma,
Aye.
Daly City.
Daly City, resounding aye.
Thank you. East Palo Alto,
Yes.
Foster City,
Yes.
Half Moon Bay,
Yes.
Hillsborough,
Aye.
Menlo Park. We'll come back to Menlo Park, maybe having a mute button problem. Millbrae,
Aye.
Pacifica,
Aye.
Portola Valley, Redwood City,
Yes.
San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos, San Mateo, South San Francisco,
Yes.
Town of Woodside, County of San Mateo, and coming back to Millbrae, Menlo Park because of a possible mute button problem.
So having a hard
Yes.
time hearing you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a yes and a thumbs up. Two votes.
Measure passes unanimously, sir.
Thank you very much. Move on to this next action item. That's a one-year agreement between the San Mateo Consolidated Fire Department and the San Mateo County of San Mateo for hazardous material response. And is that, Dan, were you going to?
I'll do that. I'll take that.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a standard contract with the hazardous materials team with now resides at San Mateo County Consolidated City Fire, excuse me. It's for a term of 1 year for the amount of $782,572. There is a correction in the statement on background. It said that the hazardous material team is not, the word should be now, is now part of the newly formed Consolidated Fire Department as it transferred from Belmont Fire Protection District in 2019. The cities, the 20 cities do participate in this. And this would be an agreement, like I said, of 1 year from July 1, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those questions. I'll take them now.
Thank you. Any questions from council to Don on the report? City of Millbrae.
Sorry, it's been quite a year for Millbrae. I couldn't tell. I support extending the contract or moving it to the new entity. That said, we have potentially a new cancer cluster in Millbrae in a neighborhood right next to the airport where jets get refueled. And I am now hearing from residents, and it's going back many years, that we get fuel fume leaks. I tend to think of haz waste as dry material spills out over the freeway. Does the current contract and our relationship with SFO have a reporting for when SFO has fuel leaks, whether it's from their trucks or refueling of the jets at the gate or accidents on SFO? Because we're literally just a couple hundred yards away. And if we don't, I would like to see us in the future look at our relationship with SFO and these. I can tell you the smell lasted for about 4 hours up to my house where I live 3 blocks west of City Hall.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay.
And I need to know if
Staff?
those kinds of hazardous waste count.
Yes,
Okay.
they
Thank you,
absolutely-
City of Millbrae.
Yes, they absolutely do. The city and county of San Francisco, through their fire department, operates their own hazardous materials operation at San Francisco International Airport. And just like any other released material, reports have to be made to the state and shared with adjoining jurisdictions. So when a release like that does take place, it is reported through the State Warning Center, and we are notified.
Offline, can you and I talk? Because in my 6.5 years on council, it has happened multiple times and I have never seen a report. So offline,
So
let's
offline
talk
when-
about that.
Okay, thanks. Are there any other questions from colleagues at this time? Let's see if there's any members of the public that wish to speak, and then we will turn it over to the City of Daly City. Not seeing any members of the public at this time. City of Daly City.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say an update. I used to work for the city and county of San Francisco. And I know the San Francisco airport was special because even though we have apparatus and even though we provide services there, it must go through the county. And so San Francisco does, I guess, pay its portion, its share in providing services and the apparatus. And hearing tonight, thank you so much for the update. That's good news to hear. My comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any action from the council?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to recommend approval of the 1-year agreement with the San Mateo Consolidated Fire Department for Hazardous Material Response Team.
I'll second.
Second it.
There's been a motion and a second. Thank you both. Roll call, please.
Atherton, Belmont, Brisbane, Burlingame, Colma,
Aye.
Daly City,
Glenn Sylvester, aye.
East Palo Alto,
Yes.
Foster City,
Yes.
Half Moon Bay,
Yes.
Hillsborough,
Yes.
Menlo Park,
Yes.
Millbrae,
Yes.
Pacifica,
Yes.
Portola Valley, Redwood City,
Yes.
San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos, San Mateo, South San Francisco,
Yes.
Woodside, County of San Mateo.
We have a unanimous vote.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the council's indulgence having us take care of the action items. We're going to move back up to presentations. We still have after that other items. So I'm going to ask staff to be mindful of time as well as colleagues to be specific to the reports that are issued and that we're receiving. So next is the informational update from Emergency Managers Association. Scunny.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Medina. Mr. Chair, let's see, can I share my screen? Real quick here. Perfect. Let's see. Okay. Okay. There we go. Thank you, everybody, this evening for an opportunity to give you a brief update on our Emergency Managers Association. For those of you, most of this might be repetitive, but for some of you might be brand new. Our Emergency Managers Association for San Mateo County consists of majority members from all of the different cities and unincorporated areas of the county. We do have a lot of working groups that we work with County Department of Emergency Management on. As we mentioned earlier, a lot of our plans and projects and things we work jointly on, which include our community resilience, volunteer management. And thank you very much for adopting the disaster service worker volunteer program for the county. Much appreciated for all of us moving forward. We have a mass care working group. We have planning and operational coordination. We have technology, which includes our mass notification systems and our crisis management software. And then we also have our training and exercise working group as well. So we work with all of our DEM staff in preparing for all of these different programs and plans. For our community resilience and volunteer management work group, myself, Pat Halloran from San Mateo Consolidated Fire. As you just passed, we worked long and hard on this and are very proud of this document. We have now once again in San Mateo County set the bar very high. Even our Cal OES disaster service worker staff, Don Gluckart, was impressed by our plan and is going to be looking at that as the model moving forward as well. So we're very happy about that. Our emergency managers technology group, these are our members. Our alert and warning, we kind of gotten a little off track. I'm going to let DEM give that update in their next portion as to not steal their thunder, because we've had a lot of changes with the alert and warning. So we continue to work with them on the guidance, our templated messaging, and on standardized training for all of our users. And I'll let Jeff Norris review on the new software for that. Currently, we're looking at our crisis management software. The review went out for the RFPs. So we're looking to get that scheduled next for demonstrations to choose a new vendor for our crisis management software. Most of you remember we used to use WebEOC. So we'll be getting a new crisis management software moving forward. Our training and exercise working group, Casey Treadway, Dennis Burns is, I think, our newest member by default, Elizabeth Lamb, myself. This is for all of our training and exercises that we work on. We just completed the BayX tabletop exercise and full scale exercise. That was a big success for all of us. We utilized our Bay Area Joint Information System with that and set up a field joint information center during that exercise. So that was really a lot of lessons learned, and we'll put those into improvement plans moving forward. Our next upcoming exercise will be the Golden Eagle full-scale exercise on May 19th, which will be down at San Mateo County Regional Operations Center, our EOC down there, working together. And we will also set up a joint information center in the EOC. We'll also have the concepts class going on that week. So I know you guys will be giving us an update on that. And then as promised, I'm going to do acknowledgements and congratulations for each of our sessions now moving forward. And I think our last one was going out to Chief Ari DeLay and the San Bruno Fire Department and all the mutual aid and responding agencies for a job well done on the Caltrain train incident from March 10th. And most recent, Belmont Police Department for the swift apprehension of the suspects from Friday's shooting incident. So that is our acknowledgements for this round, and I will stop sharing. And if there are any questions, that was sweet and quick. Mayor Medina.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the report. Good seeing you as always. Any questions or comments from colleagues? Seeing none at this time, thank you again. We will move on to item 5, DM operational area projects. There are 4 bullet points. I'm going to turn it over to Don, and what he'll do, or whomever he designates, will go over, for example, Zone Haven first. Go through that presentation. We will take questions on each of the topics, but let staff go through the entire presentations before we ask questions. And I'll turn it over to Don, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair. This is kind of a new section for us, but it's stuff we do in the operational area that kind of touches bases with all the cities. So each DM coordinator is responsible for one of these and other projects. So we kind of wanted to go through these things real quick. I do want to mention that we did change the agenda format this time around on the recommendation of the Finance Committee, so that there's more, there's different areas that are pointed out or bullet pointed out better. And we hope that we can continue this. If you have any recommendations or suggestions, just let us know, because this is the first time we've used this model. So as we move forward, I will take the Zone Haven because Tony's not here. We're going to continue our training. We're trying to advance the training. You know, if you want to call it a 1.1 to 1.2, we're going to continue moving that forward. We did test our Zone Haven software for the Bay X exercise that happened. And we thought it went fairly well. We learned a lot of things about Zone Haven. Most of the stuff has to do with evacuations and how to move people. And that's what we're really working on right now. It's easy to click a section of a community where there's 4,000 or 5,000 people. It's another thing to move them. So we're kind of working on that side of it right now. Other than that, I have nothing further. If there's any questions on Zone Haven's an evacuation software. I'm sorry I didn't say that up front for most people.
No problem. We have heard of the name before, but thank you. Any questions from council members? City of Millbrae.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mayor. With the number of agencies that control Millbrae and dictate to us what we can and cannot do, including Caltrain, we have one neighborhood that's entirely landlocked. Are the Zone Haven models taking into account when a flash flood or a train accident blocks the only way in and out of a neighborhood?
There's a couple ways Zone Haven operates. If there was an incident like that in your community, whoever's a Zone Haven person responding there, it's either somebody from the city, somebody from the fire department, or the sheriff's office. They can alert those folks, put an alert into the system. You have to be subscribed to the system, get on the system, and it would show what's going on or calling for evacuation at that time. And it's very functional. So in other words, but in order to get it moving, somebody has to be on the system to make that happen. We used the system not too long ago during the tsunami. We put all our coastside zones on advisory that there was a potential tsunami coming, and we could change those levels, but it involves somebody engaging the system. Does that answer the question?
It does, and I'm familiar with Zone Haven. I just think we might need to be thinking about city-specific training and drills. I know we started drills before the pandemic. I think starting in the one area that coincidentally was nice, it was South City, and then they had the fire. But I think we need more drills. That's again my reservation on budget.
We do training specifically for Zone Haven ongoing, and we're raising it to the next level. And cities can join anytime they want to.
I hear that, and I'll take care of it on my end. But I feel like Millbrae is often forgotten in the county structure.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council members? City of Daly City.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to wait to the end for comments from various colleagues. I don't know if this is the correct time, but I'll just put it out there. In regards to the pending or the impending drought situation in California, I'm concerned about potential fires that may come about in various areas. And I wanted to know if this is a time under the this Haven project to inquire about the fire evacuation software that we heard about, which they can employ and, based upon the winds and the weather and how the fire is progressing, where they can begin an immediate evacuation of particular areas. So I don't know if this is the correct time for this, but maybe for future updates, maybe we can find out. Thank you.
What I would recommend, sir, is that maybe the next meeting, we can carve out some time to do an actual demonstration on how it works. So you visually can see how the operator would activate those zones and how we would move people around. That might be more information. Okay, we'll do that. Jeff.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions at this time, we'll move on to the next item, please.
That'll be Jeff.
Oh, very good. So San Mateo County operates through the Department of Emergency Management, the SMC Alert. This is the alert and warning tool for San Mateo County. It is the one official platform that we can most rapidly use. All of our cities, towns, special districts, fire agencies have access to it. Now, the state of California is seeing a shortfall in 2018 that some counties did not have alert and warning systems or did not have robust alert and warning systems, put together a model to provide to all 58 counties a common platform. At that time, they chose the same software we had been using and continue to use as a backup right now. Things were making good progress in January, but on February 23rd, the state announced that they could not continue the contract with the proposed vendor. There were simply too many gaps in cost and service. They moved to a new vendor, which is Rave Mobile Safety. And at that time, we started the transition of moving our data from our current Everbridge contract into Rave Mobile Safety. It is going to look, the SMC Alert is going to be every bit as good as it was under the old software. It's going to have a number of new features. It's going to have better geocoding for notification, and we're working on how we will tie it into to other tools. We will have all of the zone haven evacuation maps in the new software. So it's as quick as selecting a map and then placing a message. In conjunction with the Emergency Managers Association, we're writing a number of templates so we can have very standardized messaging and making the system as quick and simple to use so that when moments count, we can get messages to the community, life safety messages, as quickly as possible.
Thank you very much for the report. Questions or comments from members? Seeing none, again, thank you for the report. Next.
Yeah, I'll take this
Huh?
one. I'm sorry, this is the
Tsunami?
update. Tsunami sirens.
Yes,
We
please.
have. We good?
Yes, please.
This is regarding the update of tsunami sirens. We were getting into a contract for 3 years of formal service for them that has not happened before. And so their sirens are aging a little bit, and there's some work that needs to be done with them. We will get them back up to, they operate completely right now. When you push the button, they go off. It's just some of our batteries and stuff like that need to be replaced, along with a long-term plan, how to refinance replacing them. Because pretty soon, the last time we spent about 300,000 on getting them up to speed. So over the next, say, 5 years or so, we'd like to come up with a plan to come up with a replacement plan for these. There's 2 cities primarily involved, and that's Half Moon Bay and Pacifica. They're kind of aware of where we're going with this, but we would not start anything, excuse me, until after 2025. But again, looking at a replacement plan for this stuff. Oftentimes we forget it because it's on the coast, but it is something that we use quite often as far as testing goes.
Thank you. And we always, no one forgets about the coast. But thank you very much for the information. Any comments or questions? City of Millbrae.
Thank you, Chair. Absolutely, we need to protect coastside from tsunamis. But FEMA also added 4 or more San Mateo County cities to the tsunami watch. That's Brisbane, South San Francisco, Millbrae, and Burlingame. I know it seems highly unlikely that an earthquake would hit in such a way that the waves would move up, especially say for the shallow water that approaches Millbrae. But when you do look at that plan, I think you're going to need to consider tsunami signage, or tell the cities we're going to have to do that, and or an alarm system for the cities that have recently been added to the tsunami map. And I think that was added about this time last year, but it was hard to track down those FEMA maps.
We acknowledge that there is an issue on the Bay side. We can do some stuff out there. We will work with the cities. We have been in contact with Cal OES regarding this. So it's on our radar to look at.
Very good.
City of Pacifica.
Someone recently asked us if the tsunami sirens could be usable for fire, because we see that fire is going to be another issue also on the coast and has been with the CZU fire. Is that possible?
Yes, it can be possible. They can be programmed to a different type of siren. There's also voice over on those sirens. We can actually send messages out on the sirens, but yes. But that involves, again, developing a good policy regarding what kind of siren we're going to use. And typically they equip the police cars or fire engines with the same types of siren, so that doesn't confuse people. But that's a possibility. That's been discussed.
Thank you.
Half Moon Bay.
Yes, I am grateful that we've got tsunami warning testing system going on. However, I live 1/2 mile from the beach. I have literally never heard the sirens go off during a test or otherwise. And I'm wondering, what is the range of the siren? How far is it supposed to be heard?
I'll give that to Jeff. He's our technical person on those areas.
So the sirens were specifically engineered to cover the 10-meter inundation zone with some overlap. So if you're a 1/2 mile away, you are probably a 1/4 mile beyond where you would hear those sirens. They don't project through 360 degrees. They project up and down along the coast to maximize the areas that are most likely to be impacted.
Seeing no other hands at this time, and I did want to acknowledge it earlier, City of Belmont is here. And obviously I know even with the Zoom land, you can't be at 2 meetings at once. So thank you for being here. Seeing no others, let's move on to the last item under number 5, which is the Drought Task Force.
Kevin will do that. Okay.
Good evening, council. So January was our driest month on record. That being said, the summer is going to be extremely difficult. And the drought is a huge, priority of ours. I know it's been mentioned several times on this meeting. That being said, we have the Drought Task Force meeting coming up next Tuesday at 10 a.m. We're addressing priorities amongst our partners. We've had previous meetings before, but considering this is a major priority, we want to fast track and really identify issues and concerns. We want an overview of what we plan to do, requesting reports and plans for water resources, discussion of equity concerns and how we will support the underserved communities. And then we need contingency plans for when water runs out. That's a big priority. We've had previous meetings before with our partners. However, this is, something that's going to be a major concern going forward in the summertime.
Thank you very much. Are there questions or comments from members of the council? City of Millbrae.
I'm going to be the acknowledged pain in the butt. The city of Millbrae has put a moratorium on artificial turf. One of the reasons is it doesn't allow rainwater to stay in the soil. It long ranges, well, actually a zillion reasons we're doing it. I'm also writing the policy for the State Recycling Market Commission on this. Will this drought task force look at possibly, I think people think they're doing the right thing by putting in artificial turf, but it creates a host of problems. Will this drought committee be looking at those kinds of solutions? And then in addition, the city of Millbrae did receive an $800,000 grant through Congresswoman Spear to to begin to develop the engineering plans to convert our secondary sewage water to tertiary potable water. And we've been trying to expand the purple pipe through new projects. Will you also then be looking for new water sources?
We can look at anything you want. Kevin.
We couldn't hear.
Oh, the drought task force will of course look at any possible solution. A lot of what they're going to be looking at is groundwater and water retention, which is an important factor in your artificial turf issue. We will definitely take that under consideration.
We'll look at everything.
I would add to it that one of our solutions to stop Landing Lane neighborhood from flooding in the seasonal wetlands, which have 2 endangered species, is a new design for better habitat, but retention ponds on that too. That's more of a flooding than a drought issue, but it will also help with saltwater intrusion. So do not, I just hope that you reach out to the cities, that you reach out to some elected officials like myself who do have some specialty in this area.
Absolutely, and we can talk offline, and I would love to have other
Right.
folks, everybody
Absolutely.
included on this, because it's a huge priority for the county.
Give me your email.
And then we can exchange emails, either now or.
No, we can do it tomorrow.
We can do it offline.
Tomorrow.
and I can
Okay.
get you
Yes.
I mean, a lot of this is more, to me, flooding, but I think one of the reasons our Landing Lane neighborhood is the high school district has put in artificial turf in major portions. We have a high school that's technically San Bruno, but it was Millbrae. Millbrae's land was given to San Bruno, but we drain it. We provide all the utilities. And now all that water hitting that artificial turf in multiple fields is flowing straight into that neighborhood that has flooded and floods every year. So great concerns over artificial turf and flooding, besides heat islands.
Okay. All right. So
On
you
that.
can share in email and get together offline.
Yeah, I don't want to hear that we're voting for something that it's a done deal. And again, our
There is
interests
no
are
vote. It's just an
subverted.
update.
Just to
Just an update
clarify,
on the drought.
it's more of a situational awareness, kind of briefing and meeting to kind of identify priorities moving forward. As far as Redwood City, I noticed that we will contact you offline to exchange information for the meeting as well.
Very good.
Millbrae, not Redwood City.
No, Redwood City is had asked. So thank you, staff. Okay, thank you very much for all the staff and the updates, and I appreciate that. As you recall, we did already go through the action items. And so we'll go on to item 7, which is council comments and announcements. Any members of the council that have, again, comments or announcements? City of Millbrae.
My comment relates to, we're all partners in on this, the cities and the county, but and to a degree, SFO to a degree. But the other regional agencies are not a part of this, and it is drastically hurting my city. We may be the only one like it. So Caltrain had a train crash in San Bruno, much attention for that. But we have a neighborhood, Marina Vista, with one access point in, and Caltrain and most likely high-speed rail have told the city of Millbrae recently that we don't have the population base that makes it worthwhile to create a way out of that neighborhood. So no above grade or no below grade, should there be some reason that the train system blocks egress in. Someone has a heart attack there. I just had our fire subcommittee this morning. Our fire trucks could not get into that neighborhood. So I am no longer apologetic. I am just mad as heck at how some cities in this county are treated by our regional bodies. And I would like to see this committee look at the regional entities and how they treat smaller cities that seem to have no political power.
Town of Hillsborough.
To be told you have a neighborhood that does not count is
Okay.
beyond
Yeah.
upsetting.
Okay, council member, thank you for your comments. Town of Hillsborough, I had given it the opportunity for the town of Hillsborough to speak, so let's give that courtesy, and I appreciate your patience.
Thank you, through the chair. So my question is to the staff regarding the communication notification. I know that tonight, prior to the council our meeting, we have received a SMC alert regarding the meeting tonight. And I understand the county is currently adopting the Simplicity app that allows the the entities or agencies to be able to send out notification, and it's easier to subscribe. And I believe that many of our cities in the counties are also getting on board and providing the Simplicity app to their residents, so that the city will be able to directly send out information. So has this body considered also utilizing the Simplicity app for notification? So it will come onto our smartphone and without any hindrance.
Okay, we actually have something better coming along with our new software. The Simplicity app is not terribly robust. It's really not engineered to be a wide area notification. It's made to be easy for a small area. Our new software that's coming along does have a push app, which for people who don't want to give their information, they can simply download it and enable it, and it will passively receive the information sent out based on geofences. So we actually have something better than the Simplicity app coming along. And that message that came out just before this meeting was there was some concern that some members may not have received the notification that was sent to a specific list that is only members of this council, the elected members who are part of this council. And that was just simply to make sure that you had the link to the meeting available in case you were away from your regular computer, didn't have the email, for whatever reason you might need it urgently right there at that last minute before the meeting started.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to hearing the presentation on the newer and better communication platform.
Steve Daly City.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment regarding tonight. First of all, Mr. Chair, I'd like to thank you for your outstanding kudos to you in the handling of this meeting. I know it can get a little bit contentious at times, but you're handling it very well. I'd like to thank staff for all the updates. You folks are the experts, and I appreciate it. You handled the questions very well. I'd like to thank my colleagues also on this call, and especially hearing from Redwood City and ideas that have come about. And I think that's very, very important. And to the city of Millbrae, Anne, I hear your concerns, and I'm very, very happy that at least you are making them known. It's providing more transparency for us, all the cities, and each city is unique. And I feel you, and I can understand, and I would like some answers too. But I think if we continue to work together, I live here in San Mateo County. I work in San Francisco, but I am so proud to be a part of this committee and everyone who's involved in this committee. So I just feel we'll just keep working together. We will get it done. And Sue, good to see you as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Very kind and very well as one of the last commenters. With that, let's move on to future agenda development. This is something new that when we met, we talked about adding so that members that have items that they wish or want to have considered put on can reach out to staff. And what would probably be happening is then the finance admin committee can meet, is there funding? Is it in our wheelhouse? Are we staying in our lane, or have we gone into another jurisdiction as far as a county entity? So what that is for us all to feel a part of this group, which we are equal, as far as having that opportunity to bring items forward that are important to your community and this county, and to allow staff to have that time to vet it and bring back items that are of interest to us all. So please utilize that for future. With that, we will, the announcement of our next meeting will be June 16th, 2022. So certainly, please, you can email staff for any future agenda development. And with that, I want to thank everyone, staff, colleagues, council, for your time, your participation, and your passion. With that said, everyone, enjoy your Friday and have a safe and enjoyable weekend. Good night.
Okay, good night.
Meeting adjourned.